I want to introduce briefly Ryan. Uh, Ryan well, you work in the national. I'm just going to actually let you do it mostly, but what I've read about you has been a lot about what you do, and you speak across the country. You work in advise on the for the National Association of Realtors, and you are an expert in producing action systems and processes. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So Ryan, I'm going to mostly just turn it over to you, and then I'll ask you some questions as we go through here. But I'm going to disappear myself, so they won't see me asking the question. You'll be there, okay?
Perfect.
All right. So why don't you tell us a little bit about you and your business?
Sure. Yeah. So I'm Ryan Bokros from Houston, Texas, and I am currently working on, I guess, 15 years. So my license actually renews at the end of May, at the end of the month. So not all of that was actually in real estate as a realtor. A lot of that was in the mortgage side as well. But I got started off about 15 years ago in the real estate business, and I just really enjoyed the different aspects that real estate provides for my family, and the fun parts of it for me. So I got started off as a mortgage guy, kind of as a secondary career. So I actually am a classically trained chef. That was what I went to school for. I've got a couple culinary degrees, and unfortunately, when my mother-in-law passed away, we inherited 4 kids. Instead of a bunch of money. And when we did that, I needed to find something else to do that was a little bit more flexible, that allowed me to be a little bit more entrepreneurial and in control of my time. And I had a good friend who was in the mortgage business, and he kind of brought me in under his wing and said, hey, let's do this. So I got in on the mortgage side, worked all the way through kind of up until the crash, and I had an opportunity to take over real estate operations for an oil and gas company. So that was kind of my transition out of the mortgage business into licensed real estate. So I got my license while I was doing oil and gas, real estate for oil and gas. And, I had this real estate license, but I'm working a full-time job doing oil and gas. And I realized that I had an opportunity with having a real estate license, and that I should probably be doing something else with it other than what I was only doing for the oil and gas companies. So slowly on the side, I started trying to prospect and do some things in my spare time to do real estate. And I found a lot of for sale by owners on Craigslist. And so in my late evenings, I was prospecting for sale by owners on Craigslist, and started to find some success with the limited amount of time that I had to do real estate. And some things happened with the project that we were working on, an oil and gas project. And the company wanted me to move to West Texas. Nothing against my friends in Midland and Odessa, but I did not want to move to West Texas. So I took the flying leap headfirst into real estate sales full time, and started to find some success. And people started seeing that, and I got asked to start doing presentations and sharing and teaching some of the things that I had been doing. And that really kind of led me to find a real passion and a love for education and for training in real estate. And so long story short, I ended up taking over and running a couple of different real estate brokerages here in the Houston area, from very small, like 25 agents, up to a couple of hundred agents. And most recently, as of, I guess I left back in September, I was a national senior director of training for Realogy. If you're not familiar with Realogy, Realogy is the parent company of companies like Coldwell Banker, Century 21, ERA, Better Homes and Gardens, Sotheby's, Climb, and some other more regional companies. As a national senior director of training, I was in charge of really kind of working to execute internal and external and deliver teaching and training to our agents and brokers across primarily the ERA network. But we worked across all of the other brands as well. And so our strategic learning initiatives came out of our department, and I spent a lot of time on the road. And in September, we parted ways, and I started working with another brokerage here in Houston that's actually based up in Chuck's area in Dallas. JP and Associates Realtors. So I am a practicing realtor still as well. But primarily, I focus on coaching and consulting. My coaching business is membership based. So we have a daily coaching community that is exclusive to members, and then my consulting services are for brokerages as well. So that's really kind of where I've come from, what's got me to this spot, and here I am today. And Chuck, thank you so much for asking me to be a part of this. We have a mutual friend who's a podcaster, and really kind of made the connection between us. So I really love, and what my real focus is in my coaching, and again in the consulting of brokerages, is really helping real estate professionals understand the importance of setting up systems and processes, and really focusing on those income actions and those income producing actions. That's the name of our coaching, is Real Estate IPA. IPA doesn't stand for the frothy beverage; it stands for income producing actions. And so as we go through, our conversation today, we'll talk about the importance of the consistency and understanding exactly what systems and processes need to be in place for real estate professionals to focus on those income producing actions.
Okay, awesome. So in thinking about this subject of systems and processes, and determining what there is to do about producing actions that produce income, one of the things that comes to mind is that simplicity seems to be throwing out of the window lately in real estate activities. At least it seems to be. So why is that, and how can we? Sorry, I'm going to come back on. They want me to come back on. Hold on a second. All right. So again, let's talk about simplicity. It seems to be disappearing. Things become more and more complex. Why is that, and how can we help remedy that? And part of that question is, are the regular foundational kind of business practices that many of us have been taught over the years being left in the past?
Yeah, I mean, I think that as we really start to look at the way business is done today, I think that simplicity is being thrown out the window a little bit, because specifically, I think technology, and a lot of folks are starting to really lean on and focus on technology. And when you start leaning on and focusing on technology, I think your business can really start to fragment if you don't have a good focus on those systems and processes. And I think one of the big pieces that is missing in real estate period is teaching folks, when they come into the business, number one, that they are a business, right? They are their own startup. They're a small business in and of themselves. Hopefully they've found a brokerage or a real estate company to work with that really kind of has the mantra of, you work for yourself, but not by yourself. And they get some of those supports from their brokerage or their real estate company. But I think in a lot of cases, one of the things that's really missing when real estate agents start their business is they miss out on some of those fundamental principles, like you said, of just starting a business. Like, let's take real estate out of this for a second. Let's not even talk about the business of real estate. I think what we need to do is we need to think about your business. You're a business. And the first thing that comes to mind when starting a business is, what is going to be your business model? What's going to be your business focus? I think a lot of real estate agents come in and they just say, I just want to sell houses, right? But they don't really figure out what their business model or what their focus is going to be. And what I mean by that is, do you really want to be more of a listing agent? Do you really want to be more of a buyer's agent? Do you want to focus on investments and working with investors, commercial, whatever that kind of model or that focus is going to be? That's really the first step of understanding where your business is going to go and starting your business. And then from there, you've got to really figure out your business plan. So now that I've figured out what my business model or what my focus is going to be, the next step is going to be the business plan. From there, it's gathering knowledge. After you gather the knowledge, then you have to build your systems and processes that help you execute the things and the action steps that you put together in your business plan. And then of course the big piece of that is to execute daily. And what I mean by execute daily is how does that play to your business plan? What are those action steps that are going to help you accomplish the model and the plan that you've set out, which are your goals really, if let's be honest with that. And once you execute daily, you've got to start analyzing, are the activities and the actions that I'm doing daily giving me the results that my business plan shows that it should be? And if it's not, then the next step is to adjust. And then the final step is to repeat. You go all the way back up to what is that system and the process. So long way of really kind of answering some of the question where it comes to, looking at an agent's business from a foundational business principle mindset. Again, taking real estate out of it, period. You've got to understand those pieces of the process. And yeah, I think simplicity has been thrown out the window because technology is something that a lot of folks are starting to rely on. And when you start relying on technologies, there's not a lot of congruent pieces of technology that really work together seamlessly. And so what happens is a real estate agent ends up being very fragmented in the way that their systems and processes are set up, because they're buying one website. Maybe the CRM works with the website or comes with the website. They're using one lead generation platform or 3 or 4 lead generation platforms. They have an email marketing platform that they're using. They have a transaction management platform that they're using. They're using zip forms to fill out all of their contracts and documents. Maybe their same email campaign that they're using for follow-up after the closing. So there's all of these different pieces. And I think technology really has come into the business and has complicated a lot of this for folks. And so what I think really needs to happen is when a real estate agent steps back and looks at those foundational business principles, puts those into place first, and then analyzes those and looks at them and says, okay, if this is my business model, this is going to be my business focus, my business plan is X. Now, what pieces of technology or what other principles or systems or processes do I need to put in place to help me accomplish those specific things? Real estate agents and real estate professionals, whether you're a residential agent, commercial, or whatever, we're easy targets for being sold a bunch of crap, right? I mean, if you check your credit card bill monthly, you see all the monthly fees that are likely coming out for a bunch of these different systems and stuff. So I think one of the difficulties in this is that real estate agents, real estate professionals do a lot of random acts of business, as opposed to really focusing in on, okay, I created my business plan. I have these foundational principles in place. Now I'm pushing towards those specific systems and processes that are going to drive those income producing actions. And so, yeah, I think simplicity has been thrown out the window, and we kind of need to step back. And I hate to use the cliche term, go back to some of the basics, but I really think that if we start looking at real estate as an actual business, you don't work for anybody, you work for yourself, but not by yourself. But you create that business model, you create that business plan, then you gather the knowledge that you need to accomplish what you put into place in those two pieces. And then from there, you create the systems and processes that are necessary to execute on all of that. So I purpose and part of our coaching and really honestly, just me being active out kind of in social media. I love to visit with agents and help agents understand that, let's slow down a little bit and let's focus on putting some of these things into place, because if you do that correctly, then it's easier to scale and it's easier to grow your business when those systems and processes are in place. You're not continuing to do those random acts of business. Because I think most of us understand and know real estate agents who have been through it ourselves, those that go through what we call the realtor roller coaster, right? So you work really hard, you do a bunch of random acts of business, you get a couple of transactions moving, and then you lose focus on the things that you did to get those transactions, to get that business. And then you focus on those transactions. And then when those transactions come up to closing, you've hit that high point, and then you realize, oh, fill in the blank, I've got to get back to work and start doing random acts of business again to fill your pipeline again. And so I think agents that understand some of these foundational business principles and creating systems and processes in their business can avoid
Yeah.
that up and down realtor roller coaster.
Yeah. You know, I'm mostly have been a principal in my life as a developer. I've mostly developed properties, and I see that in terms of technology, both real estate brokers, agents, and investors uh, heavily rely on technology, thinking that it's going to keep them from having to go out and do the hard work of the business
Mm-hmm.
and taking the actions that over a long period of time have proven to work. So, do you see that as a that the reliance on technology can become a barrier to success? Uh,
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, could you just talk about then um, uh, what would be a good system to evaluate? First of all, let's just talk about the like what do you say to people when they say I've got to get this piece of technology? First of all, you got to understand it, and the learning curve can be pretty steep sometimes. But what would you say to somebody who says I'm going to put this piece of technology in there so I don't have to go out and prospect? I don't have to you don't have to do all those things that you normally associated with working hard in the real estate business. What would you say to them?
Yeah, I mean, I think, one of the things that perhaps I didn't really mention when it comes to the fundamentals, and perhaps one of those bullet points should be, build relationships, right? And I think that's a huge piece of the puzzle that I think a lot of folks sometimes want to delegate to technology or delegate to a social media platform or something like that. And so I think when we look at folks who want to, I think the way you said it was replace hard work with technology. The idea is, and I said this on stage at an Inman conference many years ago, and it was kind of a moment for me that it's a saying that really stuck with me. And I use it a lot because I think it really speaks to kind of this shift to technology that we've had over the last 7 to 10 years, is that it's not the technology that impresses your consumer or your client. It's the experience that you create with the technology that impresses them. So your technology is not going to replace the hard work that it takes to build relationships. It can enhance that. It can be a piece of that puzzle. It can be a piece of the experience, but it will never replace the true foundational aspect of building a solid relationship with somebody. So I think when somebody's looking at evaluating or considering the fact that is this going to be a barrier to my success, right? So Ryan said technology can be a barrier because I'm going to try to exchange hard work with technology. I think the idea here is that when you're evaluating the difference between hard work and technology, is the technology going to help you be more consistent, be more committed to the activities, to those actions that are necessary to continue to build, maintain, nurture, and have those relationships that are vital to your business flourish. And so I think that when we look at technology, there are plenty of opportunities for technology to do some of the work for us, but we can't sit back and just click a button and hope that this automated process is going to be what nurtures a good relationship. Yes, there are great pieces of technology that will keep you kind of in front of a consumer and that will help create kind of that front of mind presence. But that's not what creates a real relationship. So that, there's no such thing as a virtual handshake. I still really feel that way, right? There's a big difference in meeting somebody online, maybe even a video like this. But that relationship goes to a completely different level when you're able to physically reach out and shake somebody's hand, right? So I think when we're looking at technologies and you're looking at developing and creating your systems and processes, don't go into it with the mindset of, I need to find something that's going to replace the hard work, because the hard work of building relationships is that personal piece of the business that cannot be replaced by a piece of technology. It can be supplemented by, don't get me wrong, it can be supplemented by a good piece of technology, but you're never going to exchange the hard work of, you know, shaking hands and kissing babies, right? And you can never give that responsibility, even, I mean, to a piece of technology, and to go at it even outside of a systems and processes conversation. Your relationships, that's a big responsibility that you have to continue to nurture relationships and build those relationships, and have those based on a foundational two-way relationship. And a piece of technology in most cases is one way. Now, we can argue that social media kind of helps us develop that two-way relationship. But in most cases, technology that real estate agents or real estate professionals are looking to use, at least in their mind, is that one-way push. It's, what can I use to put as much information, put as much stuff of mine in front of the consumer to help them realize that I'm the person that they need to use. So let's not replace the hard work of building relationships and making those connections with folks by technology, but we can still leverage those to supplement and to build an experience that the consumer could really connect with, which makes it so much easier when it's time to meet that person at a coffee shop and really talk business and reach across the table for that physical handshake. Some of those things can make it easier down the road, but we can't specifically and fully rely on replacing hard work with different pieces of technology and even systems and processes. It's got to be a supplement to that foundational principle of building relationships.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the same is true for investors and developers. It's the relationships you build along the way, intentionally or unintentionally, that determine, you know, what your deal flow is, you could say. And so, and so in evaluating and understanding the types of systems and processes, the technological or not technological, then do you have a blueprint or a model that you use to do that?
Yeah, I think that, again, if we kind of step back and look at some of these foundational principles, when you're evaluating your systems and processes, the goal here is to make sure that you're creating those systems and processes within the prototypical sales model, right? And so typically that you can break it down into anywhere. We've seen anywhere from 5 to 12 steps, but kind of the big rocks would be prospecting. So you prospect to generate leads, right? You generate leads because you want to convert leads. Once you've converted a lead, then you're into that kind of servicing or that transaction aspect of the sales cycle. And then you get to that transaction closing, right? And then from closing, you get to where you market. And so marketing and prospecting kind of help finish that cycle and start the cycle. And so when you're evaluating your systems and your processes and your pieces of technology that you're looking to put into place, the real goal should be, again, that idea of supplementing, that idea of it creating the experience for the consumer. So if we start at the very top of the sales cycle, it's prospecting. What am I going to use? What am I going to put into place to create a good prospecting piece to my sales cycle? Because the goal of prospecting is lead generation. And so once I've generated those leads that have come out of my prospecting work, now what system and process, or what pieces of process, what technology perhaps, do I have in place that's going to convert that lead to a client or a customer, right? And so once I've got them into that conversion zone, now I've converted them, and they're going to be, in real estate, one of two cases, really, if you want to just get basic with it, they're going to either be a buyer or a seller. And so from there, now I've got my systems and processes in place to handle either a buyer or a seller through the transaction. right? And then when we get to closing, again, I've got systems and processes, I've got checklists, tasks lists, whatever that may be, to get me through to that closing. And then once I close them, now I get to do a little bit more marketing, because I've accomplished and I've said, I've done what I said I'm going to do back where we all started at the prospecting part of the circle. So I think that's really kind of the foundation, or the basic blueprint is: you prospect to generate leads, you generate leads to convert leads. Once you've converted a lead into a client, then you walk them through that transaction process, or that servicing process. Once you've serviced them, then you get to the closing. Once you've closed the transaction, then you kind of go back to that part of the circle that is marketing and prospecting. And so that rounds out the sales cycle, and that really kind of is your blueprint. So from there, again, you go into each of those steps of that prototypical sales model, or sales cycle, sales process, and you evaluate each step within those segments. And that's really kind of the blueprint is, so, okay, if I'm going to prospect, for example, I shared the story that a big part of my start in selling real estate was for sale by owners. I created a process of prospecting for sale by owners on Craigslist. A part of that was certain emails that I sent out. Part of that was developing, I hate the word scripts, because that's just so robotic, and I'm not a big fan of scripts, or at least memorizing scripts. But I created dialogue, and I practiced that dialogue, so that when I got into a certain portion of the conversation with a for sale by owner, I knew what to say, and I wasn't stumbling over my words. And so once I got from that point and I converted them into a lead, then I had all of my other processes ready to go with that. And so I had certain documents and forms and a timeline that I followed and that I worked to make sure that I converted them into a client, and then started working through that transaction. So divide that sales process, that sales model, the sales cycle, into the large segments, and then break that down into each piece of that segment, and then understand from there, okay, what systems and processes do I need to create? What are going to be the main pieces of this category, or this section of the segment? And what systems and processes are in place here? What do I need to accomplish? What are my actions? What activities do I need to do daily or consistently? And then from there, now what piece of technology can I use to supplement, or to make this easier on me, and to make the experience better for the consumer? So I think that when you look at this, initially it sounds like a lot, and some agents, when they sit down and they really start focusing on this, they freak out a little bit. They're like, oh my gosh, I just wanted to get in here and sell houses, right? That's great. But then I go back to, okay, so let's take out the real estate part of this for just a second, and you're starting a business. And this analogy that I'm going to share here real quick, in a lot of cases really helps folks think about this differently. Is you're not starting a real estate business. Let's talk about you starting a coffee shop, okay? When you're starting off a coffee shop, there's certain steps that absolutely have to take place before that consumer gets that cup of coffee in their hand, right? You have to have a physical space. When you have the physical space, you've got to make sure that it's comfortable enough for people to want to come in. When they come in, there's got to be the ordering counter. When they go up to order, what's the process that gets the order from the cashier person to the person who's actually making the coffee? Well, in order to make the coffee, you have to have all the stuff in place to make the type of coffee that you advertise in the beginning, right? So you see how we're working through this blueprint of that sales cycle. Once the coffee is made, then how's it presented to the consumer, right? There's a little delivery counter. Once the coffee is delivered to the consumer, they have the sugar and toppings and creamer bar. And then from there, you kind of go all the way back to, now it's the ambiance, or the atmosphere of the space that they're going to sit and enjoy their coffee in. And you've fully delivered what you told them you were going to do that got them in the door in the first place. So that may be a long way of really saying, when you look at your blueprint of creating your systems and processes, you've got to go back to those fundamental pieces of what's your business model, what's your business plan, and then have you acquired the knowledge, And then what action steps are you going to put into place? What income producing activities are coming out of those, are coming out of the blueprint that is your business model and your business plan. So I think that's really the blueprint that most folks should look like. You can get very, very detailed in all of that. But I think from a broad perspective, that's really the template. That's really the blueprint of creating good systems and processes for your business.
So you were talking about systems and processes and creating income producing activities. So the question is then, how does, whether it be a, like you say, a broker or salesperson or an investor or developer for that matter, how can somebody tell if they're actually performing an income producing activity, or maybe even the income producing activity that is the highest level they could, higher level than they are now doing?
Yeah, so and this is part of where it becomes a little bit more difficult in evaluating kind of, okay, what is something that's ancillary to my business and something that is income producing to my business. I think when you're evaluating those systems and processes, I think the first big piece of, is this an IP, what we call an IPA, right? Does it get me closer to the finalization of the transaction, right? Which, if we're all honest here, we're while we have passions and we love what we do for other reasons, the reason we're in business is to make money. And that's the end goal here, is for us to put a check in the bank, because we have families to support. We've got habits to support. We've got dreams that we want to support. And so I think the first piece of analyzing whether or not something is an IPA or it is a technology piece that becomes part of our IPA is specifically, what does it do to get me to the transaction, get me to a closed deal? I think that in looking at this, a lot of people will say, well, prospecting doesn't necessarily calculate, if you use that definition, to an IPA. Well, actually it does. If you remember, as part of the foundational principles I put out there was analyze, right? And so when you start getting into this and you're creating those systems and processes and you're doing those daily activities, you're executing on certain tasks that you feel are going to be specific to driving income into your business. The big part of this that I think gets left out in a lot of conversations about income producing activities and developing good systems and processes is that analyze part. And so when you're building your systems and processes, the reason for you to really systematize these processes is because you want to be able to analyze. You want to be able to look back and you want to be able to say,
Lost you there.
Okay, lost me. Yeah. Was a funny glitch. So the analyze part is, where was I going with that? You want to analyze. Oh, okay. The analyze part. So am I tracking my conversion rates? Okay. For example, if I'm using a specific tool or a system or a process, or I'm doing certain tasks that are supposed to be driving me business, are those tasks, are they actually driving business, right? So what's my conversion rate? How many of those activities that I performed turned into checks, turned into commissions, deposited into my bank? So, there are many pieces of the puzzle, but that's the beauty of a puzzle, is that when you put those pieces together the way that they're meant to be put together, you get the picture, you get the whole piece of the whole picture, the beauty behind it. You come to a finalization. And so while some of those nuances within creating your systems and processes may seem mundane and may not necessarily seem important as to the final outcome, it ultimately has to be evaluated from back all the way to front. And so if you can trace from that closed transaction all the way back to an activity that you did to prospect a consumer, and you've got a high percentage of success from those specific activities, then yes, then you should continue to do those, because those are what we call IPAs. Now, if you can trace those transactions back to, I don't know, for example, knocking on doors, right? And you're tracking how many doors you're knocking through the course of however many months, and your conversion rate or your success rate of closing transactions that were a direct result of going out and walking in neighborhoods and knocking on doors, and that number was very low, then your activity of going out and knocking on doors is not an IPA. It becomes something that is one of those just failed business practices. So in looking at all of this and looking at some of those key factors to understanding or to categorizing something that you're doing in your business as an IPA, initially there's proven time-tested activities that we all know work. They've stood the test of time. They help develop relationships, which is another kind of scale that you can put any of these activities that you're doing, right, into, is it helping me develop a relationship? And if I did this, it helped me develop a relationship, and I bring that all the way around to a closed transaction, then that is an IPA. I saw that question pop up. An IPA stands for an income producing action or activity, right? IPA, income producing action. So the key factor would be, can I connect this activity that I'm consistently doing to a commission check? That's kind of just plain and simple way of putting it. Yes, there are, again, many pieces of the puzzle, and a lot of things typically have to come together, but all in of itself and all together, those different activities or tasks, whatever it is that you really want to call them in the end, come together for a commission check, then those are the things that you need to consistently focus on. And that's what becomes those IPAs in your business.
Yeah. I have a question. It's really, you're talking about the processes and systems, and the image that comes to my mind is almost like an assembly line to produce a product. The product at the end of the day being a profit or from a deal or a commission for a broker, salesperson. And it's a process it starts with a whole bunch of input things, materials and labor and marketing and finance and government approvals, all that stuff for any kind of manufacturing process. That's taking you from nothing, you could say, to a finished product, which in this case is money. So it looks like a very complex, it probably is a very complex system, right? So what are the three top things that if somebody were going to initially focus on, like that you're going to pay some attention on, this is a thing I need to pay attention to, this, and measure these three things as an example. Mm-hmm. What would you say is some of the prime areas for improving your performance with those systems that most people use or could use? What would you say the key things to pay attention to are?
So I would first go with the old adage of time is money, right? And so is this activity or this action that I'm doing or this piece of my system, my process, how much time is it taking for me to accomplish the goal, whatever that is, right? If it's part of your prospecting, how much time, and again, I'll just go back to door knocking since we did that a second ago. How much of my time is put towards this part of my system or part of my prospecting system and process, right? And what am I making for my time? How much of that return is coming back to me? So I would say that the first big thing that you need to evaluate, because time is money, number one, and number two, there's no such thing as time management, because time goes whether we go with it or not. There's only activity management. So if time is money on one side of this, we could say the number two thing would be, am I accomplishing the activities necessary within the time that I have to maximize my return, to maximize the money that I'm making, if you want to say per hour, right? So if time is money, evaluate that. What are you spending your time on? And two, there's no such thing as time management. So the only thing that you can do is manage the activities that you're doing within the course of your day or your week or whatever that may be. And so I say that activity management portion, the successful, the profitable activities are those that you need to spend the majority of your time on, if that makes sense, right? Yeah. And so again, a lot of these systems and processes have small, nuances to them, and sometimes you can get stuck in the minutia of making sure that these systems and processes are set up. That's fine, as long as it's not preventing you from doing the activities and the actions that are actually producing income. And so I think where that goes is probably the third thing is from those two pieces. Now, what can I delegate? What can I delegate either to another person that is going to cost me less per hour, going back to time is money, right? What can I delegate either to a person or, and this is going to sound maybe a little backwards because of the beginning of our conversation, but what can maybe I delegate to a piece of technology, right? And so there's those three pieces of kind of evaluating all of this and thinking, okay, if time is money and I'm evaluating my time, what am I spending my time doing? Number one. Number two, activity management is key. And so if I'm evaluating the fact that time is money, where am I making the most money per time? Okay. And so then I need to focus on those activities. And then those activities that aren't making the most money per time, how can I delegate those out? Because they're still important. A lot of those smaller activities and the nuances of a transaction, those smaller pieces of the puzzle are still important. A lot of those things, if they don't happen, then we don't get to the end, right? But uploading a document is not as important as getting the document signed, right? So there are certain pieces of this process and the systems that we could delegate out to a piece of technology or to another person, that circles all the way back to time is money. Because if I'm giving myself more availability, I'm leaving myself open to do more of those activities within the time that I have, that's going to drive more income. So I would say that those are probably the three things that I would initially evaluate for a new real estate agent. Perhaps maybe kind of a bonus fourth would be, when I say time is money, don't mistake that for not investing time in gaining knowledge.
Yeah. It's funny when you say time is money. It reminded me of a recent, very useful but painful exercise that I did, which was I took everything I did during the day, every minute of different types of things that I was doing. I printed out a spreadsheet thing so I could track it, and then look and see how much of my time that I spent was spent on personal time, and then in business, how much was spent on business that actually produced income, or it was business that was kind of like busy work or something I could have, I could have done differently, and then look and see what the actual total dollar amount that I produced per day, that against what I wanted to produce per day. And it was shockingly a big difference. And I discovered that there was a lot of time seepage during the day, where it's things that I did not need to do, or I certainly wouldn't have paid somebody else to do for me. Those things were I just had to really evaluate my whole system. You could say my system, because my system was constantly having distractions and interruptions happen, which reduced my productivity and effectiveness. So
Yeah,
I really get what you're saying about the time is money, because it is.
it is. You know who's really good at this, as much as we may dislike some of them, is attorneys,
Uh-huh.
right? So, you know, attorney, and we can talk about them wasting billable hours, but when you get to the point where you're essentially charging billable hours, and you have to justify that, you know, it's really interesting if you've ever worked with, if you've ever had the unfortunate event of working with an attorney and reading their billable hours sheets. I've got a few buddies that are attorneys, and when I did oil and gas, I directly dealt with a lot of our attorneys, and it's really, really interesting to read their billables. And you know, the attorneys, man, they are very specific in a lot of the things that they put in those billables. And it's really something that I think we as an industry can learn from, is at the end of the day, how many of the hours that I spent doing what are billable? Like, what could I actually charge my client for, which is
Right.
me, really, when it comes to putting money in my bank. How many of those hours, or what pieces of those things that I did today can I actually end up putting on the billables sheet? So I think we can learn from the law profession
Yeah.
in that way, for sure. And so I think that your exercise is something that would be very eye-opening for a lot of folks, and you know, would likely, like you said, it would likely change the course of their business
Yeah.
if they really start looking at that aspect. And you know, that, yeah, like you said, that circles all the way back to, okay, what activities am I doing? How much of the minutia can I delegate out to something else, an assistant that I'm paying $12 an hour to, or $15 an hour to, because I'm worth $150 an hour, right?
Mhm.
Like,
Right.
I will take that exchange all day, every day. I'll pay 12 to make 150.
Yeah. If we were in
Yeah,
Vegas, those would be really good odds.
absolutely. I'll take those.
Yeah. So let's go back to talking about the systems. So if almost everybody, not everybody, but almost everybody is looking to grow their business, expand their business. Companies are looking to, individuals are looking to do that, and companies are looking to do that, to expand your business. And so uh, if you're growing your business, what are the key factors that you need to pay attention to make sure that your systems and processes, you can scale up to the next level, and it won't now turn into a waste, that what was a good practice and that you put in recently becomes not a good practice when you scale up. How do you determine that?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things here that I think are probably really important, going back all the way to the beginning, is you know, what's your business plan, or what's your goals, right?
Mhm.
And so as you're preparing to create your systems and processes, doing so with your goals or your business plan in mind is obviously vitally important.
Mhm.
So if you're hiring an 18-year-old who takes 2 hours to input, you know, a couple of lines of data into a spreadsheet for you, that's not scalable. And so if you're getting to the point, or if you've put into your business plan and your goals that you want to do 25 transactions by the end of the year, let's just say, you know, what's going to be the load on your system and your process in order to accomplish that? And so the a really great way to look at that is the question of, is this scalable? Can I duplicate this process with little time effort? Right. Again, so that's why you're creating a system and a process. You're really creating a turnkey solution to your business. You're creating what I like to call it, you know, a franchise. Right. When somebody buys a McDonald's, they're given a book with the recipes. They don't have to start by doing the recipes. And those recipes and those systems and the machines that are sold as part of the franchise are all developed and created with scalability in mind.
Mhm.
And the reason that they know that that works is because it's been proven. So first, I would say, don't reinvent the wheel, or don't attempt to reinvent the wheel. There are a lot of products. There are a lot of good systems and processes out there that work. So I would say evaluate and look at what, do some R&D, rip off and duplication, right? Look at what people that are where you want to be are doing and what they're using, how they're accomplishing it, what are they delegating, what does their typical day look like? What piece of technology are they using? What type of marketing are they using? Do they have stuff that is easy to lather, rinse, and repeat? Right? So when you're looking at developing your systems and processes and you're putting these pieces of the puzzle together, you don't want to build a puzzle on a table that's not big enough to hold the final product. Right. So when you're starting off, you want to make sure that you're starting off with a table big enough to hold the final puzzle as all the pieces are put together. So scalability is one. There's a lot of, for example, there's a lot of CRMs that will, or email marketing systems that will charge you less for having less contacts in the platform, right? And as you grow, then you don't have to pay, $99 a month to only have 500 contacts. But when you start bumping yourself up, there's scalability built into that platform for you. So if we're talking specifically technology or a platform or something that's going to be part of your systems and process, evaluate the scalability of that and make sure that there's, that there's pieces of that that are developed to grow with you, because you don't want to have to get to the point where you're 3/4 of the way to your goal and you realize I'm at max. Right. I'm maxed out now and I have to kind of start over again and find a new process or a new system or a new platform to implement because I'm at maximum capacity. Yeah. So what's your business model? What's your business plan? What are your goals? And then will the system, process, technology, platform, whatever, list of IPAs, will those support my goal and my plan ultimately? Because if they won't, and again, you're just doing business, random acts of business, then that's not scalable and that's not going to grow with you. Using something like this for your CRM it's not scalable. That's not going to grow with you. Right. Find a platform, find a tool that's going to be scalable and that's going to grow with you and allow you to grow. Some of these things you need to look at, what does it do for me that enables me to grow? Not so much will it grow with me, but will it enable me to grow?
Yeah, I got that. So if you were going to give a tip to our participants today as to, like just a tip in that is, so what could there be that would help us to make sure that we get those income producing activities that are producing the revenue once we've determined what those really are? What's a tip that you can give us to make sure that we actually get those done?
Sorry there, a little scratch. So I'm going to go at this from, I think I'll take that question and I'll go kind of into two different directions with that. I'll start with if you're a new agent. Okay, so my tip is if you're a new agent, brand new or fairly new, or kind of maybe in those first 3 to 6 months of your real estate career, one of the things that I would recommend is, again, look at doing some duplicate, right? Do some, what was the word? I just said it a little bit ago. That just went right in and right out. Some rip off and duplicate, do some R&D, right? Right. Find a mentor, find an agent that is willing to mentor you, is willing to let you take them to coffee, let you take them to an expensive dinner in exchange for information. Those that have gone before us have a lot of wisdom. The industry is changing drastically in many, many ways. What's not changing is what we started this whole conversation about in the first place, was those foundational principles of building a successful business. The technology, all of the different pieces that go into that, yeah, those can look a little bit different for each of us. But the foundational principles of building a successful business are still those big rocks. And so find somebody that has gone before you, that has developed these, that has created success, and invest in them as they invest in you. So don't just look for free information. Let them mentor you, give them a referral fee if they help you with your first couple of transactions. Ask, shadow them, work with them for a couple of days, do those types of things that are going to help you understand what it is that you need to put in place, again, to reach where you are wanting to be. From the other side of that, if you're a seasoned agent and you found some success, but you want to go to that next level, I think that the next best thing that you need to do is understand and look at opportunities to delegate, because delegation is duplication, right? And duplication is expansion. And so when you look at the opportunities to delegate further, again, you've got to look at your worth per time, right? If money per time is the thing that we're looking at, my biggest tip is to take a little retreat and evaluate where your time is best spent to make the money. And then how can I delegate those other things that are making me half what I'm making while I'm in front of the customer? And then how can I duplicate that? And then beyond that, what you're doing by creating that duplication process and delegation process is, as somebody who perhaps is coming to the end of the career, what you've done is you've created, again, you've created that book. You've created that franchise model, if you will, and that's your exit strategy, right? That's your exit strategy right there, because you have something that you can sell to when you decide to leave the business. You have a system and a process in place that'll keep that business running. Yes, you may be the quote unquote rainmaker, you're the face of the business or whatever it is, but you have something tangible to sell. That's part of your retirement plan. And so that is something that you absolutely should evaluate and look at as you've gotten to this point in your career and you're trying to develop those systems and processes, is if I'm out of the equation here and somebody else is put in my place, will this ship still sail? Mm-hmm. Right? And so I think for that person who's found success and is looking to either grow further and or create their exit plan, that would be my tip. Is you may have the well-oiled machine running, but is it documented, right? If you were to hop up and put somebody in your place tomorrow, would the ship still sail? Would the machine still run? So that would be my tip for that kind of seasoned agent. I saw a comment come in there, but I didn't catch that.
What suggestion do you have for us dinosaurs who are overwhelmed by all of the tech and automation options thrown at us every day? What suggestions?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would go back to kind of what I just said. If you're worth more likely, and I think this is most real estate agents, period, is you're worth more being in front of people. Your worth per time is higher when you're in front of people. So if you're a dinosaur, and I'm not calling you that, you called yourself that, right? If you consider yourself a dinosaur and some of these technology pieces and things are maybe just too difficult, or perhaps you don't feel like you have enough time left in your career to invest in learning some of these things, this is again where I feel like the delegation piece comes into play. Find a young college student who's wanting to make a few bucks a week or a month, to put those things into place for you. If you're talking automation specifically, there's not a whole lot of maintenance necessarily that kind of goes along with some of those automated pieces. So pay a flat fee to a college kid or a high school kid that knows what it is that you're trying to do, so they can build that for you. And then have maintenance scheduled, or have them on call, so that when something comes up that you need fixed or you need something added or tweaked, they're on call and you have that availability. I think, you know, I don't like to use the term dinosaurs. I usually say agents that are kind of sunsetting, if you will. Those agents, this is where I think delegation really becomes key. If you're in that time of your life and that time of your career, to moving around, but you go and real estate. Why real estate agents practice real estate until they're 75 or 80. It's just in your blood, and once it's in your blood, it's hard to let go. But some of these changes in technology and the way things are going, yeah, it becomes a little bit more difficult in those years. And I totally understand that. And again, that's where I think if you've been in real estate that long, you've likely found some success, and you can likely afford to hire somebody to delegate some of those pieces out for you. And if you do in the long run, more than likely that delegation and what you invest in delegating that out is going to give you a return anyway. But then again, you're building that system and that process. You're creating that turnkey solution, that franchise recipe book to potentially sell off to another agent who may be young and coming up.
Yeah, and I might say virtual assistants are also highly useful. I've made a lot of usage of those in the past. And the fact is, our producer here, Tony Kaufman, she owns a virtual assisting company that she basically plugs people into to do that kind of work. She does that kind of work for us.
That's awesome.
So, if you put anybody interested in her information, just put put your, just say I am, and we'll make sure she gets you some information on her services, because those have been proven to me to be very, very useful, because they're, it's not as cheap as hiring a college student, but you got people with a lot more experience. And so
well, I think that,
very happy with that.
Yeah, and I don't know Tony's platform. Some of them that I've hired personally, or that I've turned my agents onto. I know some virtual assistance companies. They have a minimum of like 10 hours per week, but they charge $10, $15 an hour. So when you start to do the numbers and the math, $100, $150, $200 a week to have somebody for you to be free for an extra 10 hours, and to have some of those things that you may not be the best at be accomplished for you. Again, I think most real estate agents should look at the fact that they are probably worth that $100 to $200 to $300 an hour rate. And so if you're able to find somebody to do stuff for you for $10, $15, even $20 an hour, you should be getting a return on that, because that time that they're spending on those delegated processes, you're spending in front of a consumer and developing a relationship that in the long run is going to be worth thousands to you, not just a couple $100.
Yeah, particularly those higher technology kind of things. If you I consider myself to be pretty technological, but there are tons of things I know nothing about, and I know very little about, or I have problems with, like database management systems, and having somebody take care of those things is one of those things where you replace. It's not even a price per hour, because it might take me 5 hours to learn and do something that takes somebody else 20 minutes to learn and do, or they've already know it already, and so they just do it. And so it's 20 minutes of time of their time versus 4 hours or 5 hours in my time.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
and that goes back to that analyzation of time being money, or what you're worth per hour. And so I think that's a perfect example of that. Is can I do this on my own? Yeah, I could probably do it on my own but it would take me 4 hours. So if I calculate my worth per time at $100 to $150 an hour, I'm between $400 and $600 for the time that I spent doing this, when I can pay this college kid $15 an hour and he'll be done with it in 2 hours. So $30 versus $400, $500, $600, $800. That's a no-brainer. But I think that most a lot of real estate agents don't understand that thinking and that
Yeah.
mindset, because I think in order to be in real estate, you've got to have an entrepreneurial spirit, and there are certain personality types that we know are typical of people that get into real estate. And so I think one of those personality types is on the Enneagram scale is going to be either kind of that spectrum of 3 to 7, where those are people who like to be in charge. They like to be the ones to do the stuff. And while they like to be a leader and they like to be the face of something, they still have a little bit of a control issue and want to be the one to get in there and do it. And so for a lot of us, I'm talking to myself here, for a lot of us, that delegation piece, it's difficult. But it's something that, again, if growth and scalability are your goal, it's vital that you kind of get over that and get with it.
Awesome. So Ryan, I know you have an offer for us. So would you like to share with us what you can offer us?
Yeah, sure. So, with all of the discussion that we had today, systems and processes and the IPAs, the income producing actions, as somebody who worked for the world's largest real estate company and traveled the country, I've stood on stages here in the US and in Canada. And, one of the things that is the reason why I think this discussion of income producing actions and systems and processes is important, because a lot of real estate agents, especially newer ones in the front end of their career, they have a really hard time with just what do I do every day, right? And if they haven't created this business plan and put into place their task list, if you will, they just really don't understand daily what they need to do that's going to help drive that income ultimately. And I think, again, that's a big part of the reason why real estate agents get stuck in the trap of those random acts of business, and it creates that roller coaster because there's no good habits of consistency to those daily IPAs, if you will. So when I left the big company back in September, one of the reasons that we parted ways was I felt that this needed to be something that was offered to the real estate community as a whole. And so what I've developed is our group, our daily exclusive coaching group, coaching community is called Real Estate IPA. And it's a community of real estate agents from all over right now, just here in the States. We've got some goals perhaps to expand outside of the United States, but for right now, it's just agents across the United States. And we're fairly new. I think we've had 25 agents inside of the community already. We're probably going to double that number here by the end of the month, because I've got a couple of large brokerages that are wanting to take advantage of what we're building here. As part of the community, you get a daily IPA. It's simple, it's time tested. They're proven tasks, proven activities that may not put a check in your bank today, but again, that goal is to drive you to that commission check at the end of the day. And of course, with that, you get the community of encouragement, accountability, some masterminding, idea sharing. And then one step beyond that is we're building out our members only section of our website. So while you get inside of our community, which is a Facebook group, you get the daily IPA on our website. We're building out our members only library. And so that's going to have self-guided video trainings. We're going to have worksheets, ebooks, white papers, a lot of those different other pieces of content to help a real estate agent not just get their daily IPA, but to also, again, that one aspect of building their foundational principles to their business, which is gain the knowledge. We want to provide all of that. So that is typically $97 a month to be a part of a real estate IPA. For attendees here, we're cutting 10% off of that membership. So I think it came out to $88.20 or something like that. So we've got a 10% cut for anybody that's an attendee. And if you join, then you get a 30-minute free consultation with me. And so that's a value of $100. And so also, if you are a VIP attendee here, that 30-minute consultation is free. You don't have to join the group or get a membership into Real Estate IPA to get your 30-minute consultation. That is for you for just being a VIP attendee here.
Awesome. And we'll, between sessions, we'll post the the VIP link again for people that want to consider doing that. I can post if you'd like the URL link to take advantage of your opportunity if you'd like to do that. I got
Sure.
it right
Yeah,
here.
go for it. It's pretty easy.
Yeah,
RealestateIPA.com/experts summit. Now make sure that you put the two S's in there.
two S's. Yeah.
Experts plural with summit, experts summit. So yeah, we're excited. This group is growing. It's going to be a lot of fun. We've got both, newer agents and very successful agents and teams already in the group. So we've got agents who run teams that are doing 30, 40, $50 million in production a year that are part of the group. And then we've got literally folks who have been out of real estate school for 30 days. So we run the gamut, but that's the beauty of what we're kind of putting in here is that these are proven income producing actions that we know just from their time tested that agents see success doing. Some of them are techie, if you will. Some of them are very basic, and some of them are part of a 3 or 4 day practice that you're going to do. The real goal here is to help agents be consistent and to create good habits that they carry with them through their career. And so this is specifically really good for agents that are on the earlier part of their career. But those agents who are further on in their career and looking to grow and expand, what they've gotten out of the group is they're really able to, again, kind of document. They really are kind of able to fine tune and hone in those systems and processes. And a lot of these IPAs, they're taking from the group and they're assigning them to their team members. Again, that delegation process. And so it really works great for new agents and seasoned, successful agents as well. So I appreciate you letting us be a part of what you've done here and help people come in.
Yeah, this is really pretty awesome group we've assembled here. And I was just thinking when you were talking about how it's effective for new agents, particularly, and people who want to grow. And, I started in real estate as a licensee when I was 21, as a broker. Actually became a broker the day I turned 21, just because of the rules were in Kansas at the time, which is where I'm from. And I remember that if I would have had, and I started as a broker and working in brokerage, and if I would have had somebody to guide me along the way and sometimes kick my butt when I didn't do what I needed to do every day, I might be a broker today. But but I can just see how having support makes such an incredible difference. Just having support and having something that someone says do this, and because we know it works. I can see that could be a really important way to build your business from somebody who already knows how to do it. So
well, and I think, as somebody who, I've worked with the best agents, the best teams, the best brokers in the country when I worked for Realogy. And it's not a knock on brokers, but, the daily encouragement, daily accountability, daily teaching, training, coaching. There's some really, really good brokers out there, but most of them don't have the capacity to do these types of things. It's not a knock on brokers, because again, I know some of the best in the country, and they just don't have the capacity to do it. And so this is part of why we're going to be partnering with brokers to have their agents come in and be part of Real Estate IPA. But Chuck, yeah, you're right. I think it's difficult to get everything that you need inside the four walls of a singular brokerage, and so that's where we've really kind of put this together to be a supplement to what you are getting inside of your brokerage to really help you succeed.
Well, Ryan, thank you for being here, and for everybody, that's Ryan Bokros. I got to like a crossbow.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for that, and we thank you for being here because we've been in the summit. We've covered a lot of different areas. We've covered 1031 transactions to syndication to buying properties at foreclosure to self-storage, and bringing something in for targeted particularly to brokers and salespeople, though I can see the benefits for other people. So we just really appreciate you being here. All right. So we look
Yeah.
forward
Well,
to
thanks for letting me be
we
a
look
part.
forward to hearing from you in the future as well. And I've just posted again your URL. So I appreciate it. So thanks for being here.
Very good. Appreciate it. Thank you so much, Chuck. Tony, thank you for for your work and helping put this together as well. You guys have a great afternoon.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you.
And then at the top of the hour, we'll be having, which is in 45 minutes, we'll be having a group come on that's going to talk to us about alternative 1031 strategies. So yesterday we heard from Bill Exeter, or actually Wednesday we heard from Bill Exeter about 1031 tax deferred exchanges and opportunity zones. But today we're going to hear from another group which actually offers 1031 tax deferred exchanges using alternative methods, which is very exciting that there's more than one way to do a 1031 tax deferred exchange, particularly if you've got a lot of gain, and a lot of people do in this market with the high prices. So we'll come back at the top of the hour and we'll do that. We're going to leave this channel open so that you all don't have to log back in again. All right. And who's coming up is Greg Talbot and John Marquise. I believe it's pronounced Marquise. So thank you guys very much. We'll see you at the top of the hour and hear what our next guests have to say. Thank you.